Good afternoon from the KUOW newsroom. This is Seattle Now. I'm Paige Browning with a roundup of today's top stories. It's Wednesday, August 27th. The pressure's on at Microsoft. The company's responding to activists and journalists over how its technology is being used by the Israeli military. Monica Nicholsberg has the latest.
Speaking from an office that hours earlier had been occupied by protesters, Microsoft President Brad Smith addressed a report claiming the company's tools are being used for mass surveillance of Palestinians. Smith took issue with some of what The Guardian had learned, but
some of what they heard turned out to be true.
Microsoft has launched an investigation into the surveillance claims and says it will release the results publicly.
The reality is we have an important assignment that we took away from that report, and we are pursuing it.
Since the report came out, current and former Microsoft employees and activists have held escalating demonstrations. They've repeatedly taken over a Microsoft Plaza and held a protest on kayaks off the shore of executives' homes. Monica Nicholsberg, KUOW News.
Washington Governor Bob Ferguson has declared an emergency over the White River Bridge. A semi-truck slammed into the heavily used bridge on August 18th between Buckley and Enumclaw. 22,000 vehicles use it daily, and that's how many are now using detour routes because the bridge is closed. The emergency is in place for King and Pierce counties and allows the state to ask the federal government for reimbursement for repairs that are underway. Ferguson says the bridge is a critical lifeline to these communities. Washington State is suspending a major IT upgrade after 10 years of work and more than $30 million spent. The Seattle Times reports the state's pushing pause because of continued lack of progress. The work focuses on the aging technology Washington uses to track workers' compensation claims. It's been underway since 2015 and is still stuck in the planning stages. According to the paper, critics blame the problem on indecisive management and high turnover at the Department of Labor and Industries. Governor Ferguson says he wants to get the project back on track. Washington state leaders have reportedly cut off the federal government's ability to use a vehicle licensing database to track down undocumented residents. King 5 News reports the state has now admitted it unwittingly let ICE use the database. State law prevents this type of cooperation between the state and federal immigration officials. The licensing department is expected to send a letter to ICE today to confirm the database is now off limits to the agency. In other big news from our state today, Washington leaders are warning the cost of insurance on Washington Health Plan Finder will surge in 2026. They say it's because congressional Republicans did not renew tax credits that subsidize the Affordable Care Act. Democratic Congresswoman Kim Schreier spelled out the problem at a news conference this week. Schreier, a medical doctor, says residents who rely on Obamacare will see prices jump 65% on average.
Somebody paying, for example, $10,000 a year for health insurance, it is now going to go up to, on average, $16,500. And we have just heard stories here today about insurance rates doubling.
And then there's the strain coming for hospitals. Harborview Medical Center's Dr. David Zones says the number of uninsured patients will increase.
Wait times absolutely will increase. Access to specialty services will be significantly delayed. And ultimately, that leads to worse patient outcomes. And I think patients and, citizens need to understand this will have a direct impact, and no one is immune from this.
This summer, Congress passed President Trump's massive tax and spending bill that did not extend Obamacare subsidies. Another day, another infusion of cash from the estate of Paul Allen. Today, the estate launched the Fund for Science and Technology with a pledge to give away at least $500 million in grants over the next 4 years. The first grantees are all Seattle-based. They include the UW's College of the Environment, Seattle Children's Hospital, Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center, and the Benaroya Research Institute. Eventually, the fund will give away money for research around the world. Welcome back to school. It's the first day of class for kids in the Everett, Mercer Island, Renton, and Kent school districts, to name a few. Kids will be out on their routes to school, and those school zone cameras are activated again. Public schools in Bellevue start next Tuesday, and the first bells ring in Seattle and Tacoma next Wednesday. As the year starts, the Mercer Island School District says it's reviewing its practices for investigating alleged sexual misconduct by staff. Investigate West reports that Superintendent Fred Rundle sent a letter to families last week that said district officials met with police to review their policies. This comes after the news outlet uncovered troubling allegations of sexual misconduct by a former teacher, Gary Twombly. He resigned in February. Prosecutors didn't file charges because the statute of limitations had passed. In higher education, funding is not flowing as usual from the federal government to technical colleges in Washington, and they're wondering if they'll ever get their annual support. Northwest Public Broadcasting's Lauren Gallup reports.
$1 million. That's about how much money Clover Park Technical College in Lakewood is waiting on from the federal government. Tom Broxson is the vice president for instruction at Clover Park. He isn't sure why the funding is being held up, and he doesn't know if some federal grants the college normally receives still exist.
The delays, the uncertainty have made it more difficult, and we certainly haven't seen any new funding opportunities come forward that would directly support career and technical education.
Right now, the college is pulling from its general operating budget to cover costs. The State Board of Community and Technical Colleges, which distributes the federal funds, isn't sure why the money is being withheld. The U.S. Department of Education could not be reached for comment. I'm Lauren Gallup reporting.
Next time on Seattle Now, protests over Microsoft's contracts with Israel have recently escalated.
I'll tell you, I've covered Microsoft for more than 20 years. I have never seen anything like this.
Hear more from tech journalist Todd Bishop Thursday morning. That's all for today from the KUOW newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Andy Hurst, and I'm Paige Browning. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. See ya.